Alright, 16th video. Very fun fact. I'm gonna have to record this again because apparently my microphone wasn't picking it up the first time, so already off to a bad start. But anyways, point is, UFC 322 is gonna be amazing, right? We're all excited. But until then, we gotta sit through this shit. Okay, but in all seriousness, for the first time on this channel, I've been posting MMA content that was not related to the fights themselves, and instead talked more about the drama aspect of it. But that's because, again, I was under the impression I want to build up back my channel until I talk about this crap, because I already get no views. So if I started my great comeback with Bonfim versus Randy Brown, I certainly would have killed my channel, okay? Okay, again, I jest. But in all seriousness, I was like many of you probably watching this video, you know, who gives a blue flying fuck about this fight, yeah. But after watching some tape on these guys, I'll be honest, I actually really like this fight and think both these fighters are pretty okay to watch, to be honest. I don't know, I know people don't like Bonfim and see him as the terrorist of the sport because he had that dud against Stephen Thompson where it seems he won the fight based off of clinch control, which in my experience, I have come to realize that's a for sure given algorithm for fans to hate you. But anyway, despite that fight, I bet you're clicking on this video expecting me to go into the inside foot battle, why I think insert fighter name here will win because of X, Y, and Z. But after I'm recording this the second time, I noticed I'm pretty much going to do that anyway. But I will not be giving a traditional prediction and instead tell you what I've noticed about these fighters. So first of all, what they do well and what they don't, and allow you to conclude on your own which fighter will win. And to start, I will be talking about Gabriel Bonfim. And keep in mind, I'm going off of the fights on YouTube for free and memories for when I saw these fights live. But basically, there is one thing I immediately noticed about Bonfim, and that he is Brazilian. And what does that have to do with anything, you might ask? And the answer that is, usually when I talk about Brazilians, my videos usually do great in terms of views. So thank you, you fellow Brazilian fighters and fans. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the guys who are watching more Brazilian, I don't know. But anyways, point is, thank you, Charles and Alex Pereira. But secondly, what I said is these guys are very good at setting up positions to where they do their best, and Bonfim is one of those guys. This guy's style, from what I've seen, is strictly using defense to set up his offense. In terms of his defense, he's very defensive on the striking, very offensive in the grappling. Of course, that's how we use it, right? He does his best when he is backing up and looking to leg kick you from a distance, and where you can't hit him, and then he'll hit you with clean jabs and straight right hands. He's got pretty decent boxing, and even catching Wonder Boy with a decent right straight. But the thing I don't like about him on the feet is he doesn't actually implement great head movement, instead relying on footwork movement itself to just step away from your strikes, which is effective, especially against a plottier fighter. But if you are fast moving forward, you are able to catch him with punches, just like Dalby Thompson and even sometimes Chaos Williams was able to barely catch him at the end of his combinations with hooks, which again isn't the best look. And not only that, he uses a traditional high guard like a boxer, which is why Stephen Thompson was able to sneak right through it with high kicks, similar to how Islam snuck through Volk's guard with the high kicks, because I remember he had his arm towards his ear to block like a strike. But again, if you're using one arm to block a fucking kick, especially from the southpaw position on an orthodox fighter, that's gonna be very rough, buddy. But why does this matter, right? You may be asking. Because Bonfim's stand-up is primarily used to set up his grappling. And how is his grappling? Well, his takedown entries are not very good in terms of using traditional single and double legs. His wrestling entries are not really meant to pick up the legs and dump you, but rather just reach for the hips, drive you to the cage, sneak around your back, pick you up, and slam you. That is how he gets all his takedowns, from at least what I saw. He's very good at that, and that's just how he is when he is trying to take the opponent down. And how is he when he actually is on the ground? Now, the scary thing about him on the ground is he is definitely an opportunist. If you give him an opening, he will gladly take it. Against Chaos Williams, as soon as he left his head and arm in the turtle position, Bonfim immediately took that neck, sunk in that Darce, but the only problem is he seems to prioritize submission rather than position. As soon as he took down Chaos Williams and had the back, he didn't prioritize locking in like a body triangle or getting his hooks in, and Chaos eventually just pretty much just stood up while Bonfim had the most dominant position in Jiu-Jitsu, and that being the back. Even that rear naked choke he attempted on Thompson, because he did actually get him with a decent rear naked choke attempt. He again prioritized submission and didn't have his hooks in, and he was really high on the back of Thompson, also causing him to fall off. So if I had to compare him to someone, I honestly would say he's like a welterweight Renato Moicano. Pretty solid jabs and straights, pretty solid boxing, right? Not very much uppercuts, not much overhands, but pretty good. Again, just straights and hooks. He's pretty decent at those, and he's pretty great with leg kicks. That's probably like his best stand-up strike, and I think that's the most effective strike he has on the feet, right? And and use the clinch takedowns to take down his opponents also is another thing like Moicano likes to do. Especially he did it very well against, that's how he literally took down pretty much all the fighters he fought. I think Moicano, when he fought Jalen Turner and he fought Benoit Saint Denis, he did like the clinch takedowns. He would get the back and trip him out. That's kind of what what's his name, Bonfim does. Again, he gets the back, he'll just pick you up and dump you, right? And Moicano is definitely better maintaining top position. That's actually something he might be one of the best in lightweight, period. When he gets on top, he does work, and it's very hard to get him off of you. But in terms of actual jiu-jitsu, I compare him more to like a Charles in terms of willingness to sacrifice position for a sub, which got him in trouble against Dalby, which goes into his opponent, Randy Brown. Now, Randy Brown is an interesting case. He doesn't use his length the most optimally. He isn't exactly a pick you apart from the outside and move away striker with like a jab and straight shots down the middle and stuff, like with kickboxing, Muay Thai, like punches, elbows, knees, and kicks and all that, but rather a combination flow boxer, like particularly with hands he likes to do his work with. And although he does use his reach quite well, being in perfect distance to land his punches and combinations, that exact style has got him into a lot of trouble, especially with overhands. Like I said, Brown doesn't exactly optimize his reach. He isn't a fighter who is willing to jab you constantly, disrupt that rhythm. He wants to cause damage, and you can see that because most of the times that he has been dropped with overhands, it's because he went for a lead hook. Dalby dropped him after piecing him up the whole first round because he made this exact mistake. But despite his mistakes, how is his boxing? Where does he excel in his boxing? Surprisingly, in a firefight. Brown wants to get you swinging punches because he knows the exact strikes to intercept your punches / movement / rhythm, or he'll simply just barely get out of the way so he can land his punches. And he has power and pretty solid reach, so that's why I'm saying he could be just a little bit on the outside and land those decent punches. So inside pocket boxing is a terrible idea for Bonfim to do with this guy. And one other thing I like about Brown is he is willing to counter constant clinch attempts with either trips or strikes once you exit the clinch. So I like that he can punish Bonfim for clinch spamming, but one thing I don't like about that is, well, his willingness to just be against the fence. That's how he lost against Brian Battle, because Battle just held him against the fence with the clinch, and his actual ground game, I'm gonna be real, I didn't really see much. I mean, he had a solid jiu-jitsu awareness when Dalby tried an arm triangle and was able to minimize damage after being on his back. And I know he gave up his back towards JDM and got rear naked and got rear naked choke, but that was after he basically again died from a punch over the top by JDM. So again, because Brown's defense against big winding strikes is usually just a kind of like shoulder roll or step away. He doesn't exactly use head movement necessarily, or when he does use head movement, he isn't one to, like I said, like cover up like with his hands. Like his blocking isn't really that great, and step back since he wants to flow strike with you, and it's hard to do that when you have your hands up ready to block, because again, when you're trying to block, when you're absorbing those punches to the hands, I imagine it's a lot more harder to use those things. So now what do both fighters, how you can tell I'm not a fighter, but what do both fighters probably need to do, and who would I say more likely wins on paper? Bonfim needs to avoid the pocket at all costs with Randy Brown. pretty much at all cost, or avoid long boxing exchanges. Disrupt the rhythm with the jab and step out, or disrupt it with short combinations, get out, and probably not make it too obvious. So that's why I'm just saying it. Limit the strikes. I know he can do it, but I'm just saying you should limit it and get out. Don't let Randy Brown get a rhythm on you. So it's probably just best not to engage it for too long. So yeah, because if Randy gets a rhythm, then he can put your lights out. Pressure with leg kicks, because Randy doesn't really check them, and clinch him up against the fence and just wear on him, and use that body lock back clinch takedown and either wear out Bonfim on the ground or get a submission. Now for Brown, I would say just pressure up Bonfim against the fence to where he can't back up, and use those long arms to boxercise his head off and emphasize those nice body shots. He used them pretty great against Brian Battle, so that he can naturally lower his posture, so that when Bonfim shoots after he gets pressured, which is something he does quite often, which is his best source of takedowns, he can either stuff them and either break Bonfim and get the KO/TKO, because when you go for the body shots, it's a lot easier to avoid takedowns since your stance is naturally lower, and also allowing Brown to fight underhooks faster, which again, you need those to stuff takedowns. So, but he has to get him to the fence though, because Bonfim is too good at just backing up, not engaging. Even against Thompson, who has really great footwork, had trouble landing punches because Bonfim just pecked moving back. So getting him to the fence and using his long arms to activate that flow state boxing against Bonfim is probably the best source of winning against Bonfim. So who oh my god, I said Bonfim so many times, I think I'm autistic. So who do I think wins more likely? It should be a Bonfim. I think it's because he can fight in the middle of the octagon with his solid leg kicks and backwards movement and okay enough boxing, enough to where he's not completely screwed against the boxing against a Randy Brown. And the cage, because Brown has shown to wither against the fence in the clinch, and Brown has to have him against the fence because Bonfim is totally willing to not engage with you out in the center or a center of the cage, and that's where Brown usually gets his flow state boxing. So Bonfim just has more winning positions than Brown does. But anyways, that's pretty much the end of the breakdown. I think this one's pretty long, but if you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, let me know in the comments why. If you did, leave it in the comments why you did or why you didn't like it, and let me know why as well. Who do you think is gonna win? Let me know down in the comments below. See you in the next one. Peace.